This is Angela with InfectiousMagazine.com here with singer, songwriter, and actor Justin Goodrich. How are you, Justin?
I'm alright now that we got, AB's little black balloons here. Crashing some old folks' party.
Now, tell us a little bit about yourself.
It's nothing good. I sing, I can play instruments, and I can kind of act.
Kinda.
I'm really not sure. I mean, people have told me that I can act. I don't believe them. I just kind of do what I'm told, Alright, Justin, I'm gonna, chain you down to a bed for 3 days in an abandoned nut house in New York. Okay. And you're gonna scream a lot. Okay. You can do that, right? I guess.
We'll find out.
Sure.
Tell us about your first music-related memory. Like, what made you really want to get into music?
I don't remember this specifically, but I have photographic evidence that when I was a little kid, like in diapers, I never cried as a child, but if you put me in my little crib and you put music videos on, it was Friday night videos, and I still have a VHS copy of it. It was like Madonna, Bon Jovi's Living on a Prayer, Genesis, Pat Benatar, like Beastie Boys, and it was all like this it was 1986. If that's what I remember. It's just bad 80s videos.
Now, are you self-taught?
I moved to Derry to take guitar lessons when I was 11. I took guitar lessons for about a year, and everything else was self-taught, like drums, bass, stuff like that. But it was funny because when I took guitar lessons, I didn't take acoustic guitar lessons. I never played acoustic guitar. I walked into guitar lessons and said, I want to learn 3 songs. I almost had trouble counting. I'm like, what? Shit. Bon Jovi, Wanted Dead or Alive, Guns N' Roses, Sweet Child of Mine, and Ozzy Osbourne, Crazy Train. He was like, here's a book for fucking Mary Had a Little Lamb. And I was like, no! I want to play Sweet Child of Mine because I watched him do it in the music video.
That was the beginning.
That was where, and the rest is shitty history.
How about the process of signing to Boston's Nice Records? How did you decide that was a label for you, and what advice do you have for other musicians that are looking for labels?
The only time I've ever performed it in this room, I performed with a lady named Ronnie, I believe, and she sent me an email with F-Nice contact information, and I emailed them like literally 2 days later. They said, okay, come to Boston and, play in Downtown Crossing. All right. And apparently, see, what I keep doing is I keep like unintentionally schmoozing with important business people, not realizing that they're important business people. I was sitting there at the bar talking to the owner of the label for like 2 hours. I'm like, oh, I got this show and I'm so excited, and I'm gonna play for like an hour, and I got all these songs set out, and I'm doing so many special things for this show because I want to impress the label. And he's like, nice. Kind of like, you almost. I'm sitting there like commenting on your photos, and then you're like, oh, by the way, I have a magazine. I was like, all right. Excellent, I suppose. As far as F-Nice, they just enjoy helping out, I mean, they gave me full creative control to make whatever album I wanted and take how much time I wanted, because I was a little late giving them an album. But they're just a bunch of good guys. They're all good musicians. They're all creative. I actually, a couple of guys in the label play drums and bass for me, like when I play gigs in Boston. So it's just, it's like having a whole bunch of your good musician friends having a label,
Well, what advice would you give other musicians looking to sign or find a label?
Don't do it. Don't do it. No, go for the ones that don't want any creative control. It's, because a lot of, what happens and what has continued to happen, especially in my life, but I've dodged the bullet several times, is you'll play a show, you'll write an album, someone with a lot of money and who used to be in music will say, hey, or is now like a producer or something like that, they'll say, hey, I like your music, I like your style, let's make an album. And then they start throwing money at you, but then money equals you owe them, and it's not you just owe them money, oh, you'll pay it back whenever. It's, okay, we own 50% of your music, like the actual rights to the songs, and then also we make your first 50% for your first 3 years. That's what most record contracts are like. So try to avoid those ones if you can, but it depends what you're going for. A lot of indie bands, they just have labels like F-Nice who can print you up some CDs, they can book you some gigs, they can be in your band if you want them to be. But if you're trying to do, get on television, get on movies and soundtrack and things like that, that's where money comes in. That's where you have to learn to not be as stubbornly emotionally attached. You can be emotionally attached to your music, but if the guy behind, the recording booth with $20,000 in his hand says, hey, why don't you try make that one key higher and then speed the song up just a little bit, just to see how it sounds. You have to be at least open to trying things, or else it's just never going to work, and it's going to be a miserable shit process.
So
be open. Things to avoid in music. Well, I'm just, because all the fun stuff is easy.
Yeah.
Writing songs, playing live, recording, all that stuff's fun. But the little things that they don't tell you, because I remember being 13, and I used to love Good Charlotte or some bullshit like that. Yeah. Was 13, all right.
I don't know.
But they were always like, oh, if you got fucking Benji Madden's like, guys, anyone watching this, things to do in life, get a band and be on Warped Tour.
Just like that.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah, just like that. Yeah, and then release a couple albums, get on MTV, get kicked off of Warped Tour, marry, Paris Hilton and all this shit, and then you'll be superstars and you'll be rich for the rest of your life. Yeah, that's not quite how it
it's
works.
Not really?
I know.
How it went.
The Bible of Good Charlotte has just been
Disproven.
absolutely. It's been shat on by me, personally.
Now, as a mainly acoustic artist in, a mainly pop punk or hardcore scene right now, what are some of the struggles you've had?
It's a struggle to get people to take you seriously, Because what happens is, a lot of times you end up getting gigs, I'll end up getting gigs because I begged and pleaded and scratched my way to that that opening slot on the gig, and a lot of people really enjoy having me play because they can set up their stuff behind me before I play, so they don't have to do anything for the rest of the show. So it's convenient having me around. But as far as the music goes, there's a lot of bands who don't take you seriously, and there's a lot of fans who will say, oh, that's good, now where's the band? Or they assume because you're about to get up there with an acoustic guitar that you're going to sound like Bright Eyes and Elliott Smith. But I don't. So it's really, no one's quite expecting what I'm doing, so it's hard to break through to people's attention because it's not something they already wanted to see, especially when people's attention span is sort of short, So I get up on stage, I'll fucking play, 80s covers and shit like that just to make them go, oh, wait a minute, I know this song. Oh, wait, there's a guy playing acoustic right now. Wait, let me pay attention, because people, I played an open mic just for the fun of it the other day, and people would be into a song and they'd be rocking out and they'd be singing along. Then I start playing another song and they didn't know what it was, so they'd walk away. And as soon as I started singing, they were like, oh, I like the song, and then they came back. So it's really hard to keep people's attention. That's the biggest struggle I think.
So, on that same note, what do you think of the whole music scene right now, both locally and nationally?
That's my quote. Locally, I love Manchester. I feel weird saying that because I went to middle school and high school in Derry, so I'm constantly trying to, get out of living in New Hampshire, but it keeps pulling me back. Manchester's a great place to play fucking music. It's there's a lot of respect throughout the scene, and I think it's because they don't call it a scene. I've noticed. A lot of times when you go down to certain places in Mass, it's very uptight.
Yes.
It's very cliquey.
Yes.
You'll be at a show and you'll just see 5 people here, 5 people here, 3 people here, 2 people sitting down over here with beers because they're not accepted into any of the other groups, and everyone's very uptight about what they want. you to sound like. And it's not very open. Like it can be. Sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't. There's a lot of like the people at F Nice, they are really open to a lot of different styles of music. But then there's some, there's some bands or some shows that you get where it's very, it's very nose up in the air, artsy fartsy fuckers that think they're better than everybody else. It's a lot of bullshit like that. Fucking Manchester, everyone loves everyone. Everyone's, hey, play a show with me, play a show with this, come work at this music shop and come jam with me and my band. And I mean, everyone practices in Morgan Storage practically, so it's kind of it's a much tighter knit community, and they're more accepting of different genres, which is why I fucking play here all the time.
Now, when people do listen to your music, what do you want them to think of, or what impression do you want to leave them with?
What I try to do in life is that I get the feeling that everything you do is pointless and will be forgotten eventually. Think of it. I mean, there's the Beatles, and they're the biggest band in the universe, but at some point, they will have been forgotten about, whether it's 100 years or 200, and especially where music is, I said, a short attention span. What I really want to accomplish with writing music, whether it be acoustic or whether it has a band behind it, is I want to make people feel something. You may not remember, I mean, we've all been to a million concerts and seen a million bands or heard a song on the radio and went, oh, that was good, but then you can't remember who it was. If you can relate to someone on an emotional level and make them feel like for the next 3.5 minutes, this whole thing is just larger than life. I want to leave them with that, because there's always a better guitar player, there's always a better singer, there's always more technical people. But that's really no good if you can't get them to feel something. That's why I like a lot of, whether it be, punk bands or even, like death metal bands or whatever. It's making someone feel alive. Or whether it be really happy or really depressed, feel something, because you'll remember that. You'll fucking remember that for the rest of your life.
Now, changing gears a little bit, I want to talk a little bit about your acting career.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I just want to know a little bit about how you got into it, and just basically the whole process, because it's so different.
Every time someone asks me that, I specifically remember when it started, and it's a horribly uninteresting story. I was sitting, as I normally do, in a car with an ex-girlfriend, and right in the middle of we stopped making out for 3 seconds. She's like, "Have you ever thought of being like an actor?" And I was like, what the fuck kind of what an odd time to ask me such an odd question. No, I've never thought of being an actor. Why would I do that? And she's like, well, I'm a part of this, modeling agency, and they do acting and modeling and stuff like that. And I was like, unless they need, short, Eddie Munster lookalike kids, what the fuck, what role would I play? And turns out I ended up being the haunted boy, so there you go. But yeah, no, I went to a place down the street called New England Modeling School, and they got me into being an extra in a lot of things. I was in the surrogates for 2.5 seconds, and it doesn't look anything like me at all. And then the haunted boy happened because they filmed it in New York, and they were auditioning in New York, but they couldn't find anybody to really perform or express an exorcism. Because in the email they said, okay, read this little monologue and act possessed. So people would go in there and, freaking out, and, I went in there kind of rolling my eyes in the back of my head, very monotone, because if you watch the original Exorcist, that devil voice was very monotone. It was very just eerie and creepy. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't flailing about and, all that bullshit. But yeah, and that's just kind of how it happened. I think it's the image that gets the acting thing going. Because I don't ever go on auditions for anything. I don't pursue acting because I don't have enough money. I don't have enough money to drive around to all the auditions and shit. It just someone will, for the example, the movie role that I just got now. he sent a picture on my Facebook. The director sent it to the other guy that he's working with and said, "Doesn't this just look like the kid? You know, depressed, angsty teen, whatever." And he was like, yeah, like that's him. But he's older. Plus being older, I can get roles as younger people because there's, child laws, like labor laws. So they get some old fucker who looks like he's, 15, 16. And then there's the Haunted Boy and the Pact, teen suicide and all that stuff.
And then just lastly, any future projects you have or anything else you'd like to add?
There's so much going on, it's absurd. There's the movie The Pact, which we started. We filmed the trailer for in first weekend of March, I think. And as far as the music goes, I got contacted by a producer at Londonderry, and we had a couple of meetings. And we're going to film one song, one music video in studio, and we're going to get that out on Facebook and YouTube and all that bullshit. And we're going to try to get some finance and get perhaps a larger label to back the fund of the recording of the album. And we're going to try to, the album that I have now, A Revenant Affair, being all acoustic, we're going to try to put the rest of the pieces together. But we're going to try to have the acoustic CD doubled with the full album, but there's a lot going on because we're doing acoustic, we're doing the full band. I'm forcing everyone to get into this sort of remix thing. We're really just trying to put all the pieces together. There's a lot of different musicians, and right now we're re-recording it, and it sounds like a cross between Depeche Mode and Tom Waits. There's a lot of electronics, but there's a lot of crash, boom, bang of all sorts of random instruments that I find lying around. So it's really weird at the moment. We're trying to condense all of my crazy ideas into one semi-crazy album. Yeah, crazy enough to be crazy, but not too crazy for everyone to indulge, I suppose.
Thank you very much.
No, thank you, dude. Thank you. Appreciate it.